Hello! Our lesson today is on solving using square roots. So what we're doing is we're solving, which means we're finding the value of x, but we're going to need to use the square root in order to do that. So let's jump right in. This is actually something that you should already have seen before. So let's say that x squared equals 20. All right. If x squared equals 20 and I need to solve for x, I need to get rid of the squared. So I don't want x squared, I want x. So in order to do that, we are going to use the square root, because if we take the square root of x squared, we will get x. All right, now you might need to think about that, but for what we've done this year with simplifying, I need two of them, and if I have a pair of x's, I can take it out. So that's basically what I'm doing. But you know the rule in math, whatever we do to one side, we need to do to the other. So I need to take the square root of both sides. So now I know that x is the square root of 20. But now we're going to go back to something that you should have learned last year, and that is whenever you take the square root of a number, it can actually be positive or negative value. So just thinking over here, if I had the square root of 25, that can be 5, but it could also be negative 5. And since we're solving for x, we want to list all the possible values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that x could be positive or negative square root 25. So this symbol right here is plus or minus, is normally how we say it. But what we're saying is that it could be the positive or negative of whatever our value is. All right, now, other thing we want to do, since we know how to do this, is make sure that our square root is simplified. And I know that I can break 20 down to be 4 times 5. Square root of 4 gives me a pair of 2s, so I know the square root of 4 is 2. So I'm going to end up with plus or minus 2 root 5. And that is my solution. So in order to get rid of a squared, we take the square root, because that's essentially the opposite. Kind of like undoing when we do everything else when we solve an equation. We take the square root of something to undo an x squared, just like we would divide to undo multiplication, or we would add to undo subtraction. All right, so let's see. This is a little dark. I don't know that that helped any, but all right, let's try another one. So let's say, oops, I started writing my example. And so, oh my gosh, what in the world? I am out of control. All right, so let's say we need to solve. So I'm going to say r squared plus 3 equals 9. So we are solving for the r. So needed to subtract 3 from both sides, so r would equal 6. Now, or sorry, r squared. So now, in order to get what r is, I need to take the square root of both sides, and that would mean that I would have plus or minus square root of 6. That can't be simplified, so I'm done. So the steps to solving are going to be very similar. It's just that we need to get the r by itself. Once we get the r squared, by itself, we take the square root of both sides and then solve. All right, last example, and I'm pretty sure the bell's probably going to ring while I am doing this one. So the same can happen if we have something like this. So I have r plus 2 squared equals 48. All right, so I need to solve for r. I'm not going to distribute, because this r plus 2 squared is actually where I would need to multiply all that out. But I'm trying to get the r by itself. So first thing I'm going to do is divide both sides by 4, which will take care of that. So I get r plus 2 squared equals 12. All right, in order to get the r by itself, I have to get rid of the r plus 2 squared. So at this step, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. That is going to leave me with r plus 2 equals plus or minus square root 12. Because just like taking r squared and the square root would be r, I need 2 r plus 2's and I have it, so I can bring that whole quantity out. So again, basically the square root cancels the squared. All right, so next up, I'm going to simplify this. So 4 and 3. So I have r plus 2 is plus or minus. So this would simplify to be 2 root 3. And now I need to get r by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I have negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 3. And that's as far as I can go. Because if you remember from our first unit, we can only add or subtract square roots if we have the same root. And we don't, because this doesn't have a root, and this one does, so that's as far as we can go. Now, if we wanted to go further, we could make it into a decimal. We don't need to, though. But just to make sure you understand that negative 2 plus 2 root 3 would be one answer, and negative 2 minus 2 root 3 would be the other answer. So I'm still getting 2 answers out of this. To go any further, I would need to estimate the square root of 3 or use a calculator and then work through it to get the final answer. All right, you guys are at the door trying to break in, so I think my video needs to be over. All right, go back and rewatch it, and good luck.